A few months ago, we had our very first housing committee meeting. We will be holding them quarterly. During the committee meeting and over the last few months, a lot of the residents' concerns have been regarding the eyesores in our village. On the housing committee, what we decided to do is we are bringing in Miss McGee so she can come and tell us about a housing program that may work for the village.
Hi, you guys. Welcome back. So today we're looking at one of the most recent board meetings held in Dolton, Illinois, where Jason House, who is a former trustee, now resides as mayor. Now, if you guys are not familiar with the drama in Dolton situation and this whole thing surrounding Tiffany Henyard and how she got booted out of both of her seats because she was the mayor of Dolton and she was also the first female supervisor of Thornton Township. So she made history in both of those positions, being the first female mayor and the first female supervisor in Thornton Township, which she will not let anyone forget, okay?
Won by landslide, let me remind you, 82%. I won every single election from trustee of 2013, the trustee of 2017, to the first female African-American mayor of Dolton. For those that don't know, please put some respect on my name. To now the first female African-American youngest supervisor in the state of Illinois.
But that's not what we're here to talk about. Let's talk about this recent board meeting because they're discussing something that has been an issue for Dolton for decades, all right? The abandoned house situation in Dolton. And I wanted to talk about this meeting in particular because they have an attorney giving a proposal for a program that she says will help take care of a lot of these abandoned houses in Dolton. Now, I found this interesting because as I went down in the comment sections on YouTube under this video, and there were some people saying that this is literally the same proposal that Tiffany Henyard would put before the board when she was mayor. And the name of that program that she would always try to push and get the board to approve was called BlockbyBlock. Now, this program is called the Abandoned Property Acquisition Program, APAP, and it's been around for a while, so that will come into play later on in the video when we talk about Tiffany Henyard's program, you guys, because, you know, I did a little digging on this company just to see kind of how long they've been around and what they're really about and what their requirements are, all right? But let's go ahead and listen to this attorney spiel, and then I'll get back to it.
This is one of the processes that we're considering or at the moment, and we like to have the residents hear her out so that the residents can be part of the process also regarding moving forward.
Thank you, Trustee. So the program is called the Abandoned Property Acquisition Program, or the APAP program. It's a program that some of the south suburbs use. The program is used to acquire abandoned, vacant, boarded up homes and get them back on the tax rolls, get them back into a habitable condition. It's done by any applicant, whether it's a resident of Dolton or somebody outside of Dolton, comes forward to the village and puts up what's called an escrow. That escrow amount is something that's determined by ordinance, so it will be a fixed amount.
So you guys, I'm not going to assume that everybody knows every term that's brought up, so I'm going to try to explain escrow to you guys. It's kind of new to me. You know, I'm not into real estate. I'm not super familiar with these terms either. Basically, what I find online is that it's a temporary holding period during the purchase process where a neutral third party holds funds and documents until all sale conditions are met. From my understanding, it's basically you want a house, you're going to pay someone so the house can be held for you, and then you have a certain amount of time to bring the house up to code to make the repairs. In this specific situation, she's explaining that the escrow payment would be used to pay her and any legal fees and paperwork that may need to be filed to gain the property, like get the deed, see if it's in foreclosure, you know, all that jazz that just a normal everyday person who is really not super deep into real estate may not be too savvy with. And that's just my basic understanding of it. You guys, if you know more about escrow and how it relates to the whole sale process of housing, let me know down in the comments from your expertise. But let's go ahead and continue.
And then the village then takes that property through the circuit court proceedings to get ownership of the property. Now, from just listening to the meeting here, I think that you're going to love this part. Doesn't cost a penny from the village. All of the money that is used to take this through the circuit court, all of the money comes out of the escrow that the applicant put up. So once the village gets the ownership of the property, they get all the back taxes abated.
So here's another term I'm not too familiar with, so I had to look it up. And that's when she talks about tax abatement. And when she's saying if the village is able to obtain the property, that they can be eligible to have the back taxes forgiven. That's basically what that means. All right, now let's move on.
So once the village gets the ownership of the property, they get all the back taxes abated, and then they transfer it over to the applicant, whoever it is that applied for that property. The applicant then has 60 days to bring the property up into habitable condition. At that point, they can sell the property, they can rent the property, or they can live in the property, however they want to go about it.
So this is where the red flags definitely start, going off. All right, in my head, and some people's heads down in the comments too. When she said they had 60 days to bring the property up to code and get things done to make it habitable. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm not into real estate and never have been, so maybe it's possible. You guys let me know. But there were some comments that absolutely did not agree with this. We had one person just say 60 days, question mark, like what is that? And then someone else said 60 days disaster waiting to happen. And honestly, that's what I feel. I feel like you're setting someone up for failure when you give them just 60 days to rehabilitate a house. Now, if it's someone who's bought houses before and done this type of thing over and over, well, that would fall under flipping houses. And I think that's a whole nother issue that they would have to talk about. And I think that might be an issue for Dolton. Is this program going to be house flipping friendly? And is that something that Dolton wants, right? But then on the other hand, you're probably going to get a lot more investors in there going after these houses if that time limit is so short, because they have the money to actually get in there and do whatever needs to be done so they can flip the house and get way more money for it. So there's not a problem with them putting in that money and doing it fast because they have more resources than your everyday Joe, right? And that's just my opinion on the 60 days. I feel like it could bring up a whole host of other issues, but let's continue.
This also includes any commercial property, any vacant land, or the residential homes. I think that is the very basic idea of the program. I think the most amazing part of the program is it gets these properties back on the tax rolls, it gets them back into the community, and it's at no cost to the village.
I'll open for questions from the board.
I have a couple of questions.
Is that Trustee Belcher?
Yes.
Okay.
You said that they would put up an escrow. We would abate the taxes. So how is the application process? Like, would Dolton residents be first to obtain properties? How is the application process?
So it is a first come, first serve basis. And also the other thing that I should point out is that it's the applicant's duty to go out and find properties that may qualify for the program. There's three different three different things that the property would need to qualify for. It's up to them to go out and find the property. So if you're talking about Dolton residents, especially residents that have been here for a long time, they're going to know the properties a lot better than somebody coming from way up north that's not familiar with the village.
So how do you get paid?
Out of the escrow that the people put up.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just asking.
No, it's a good question.
Okay.
There's a very minimal cost to just start up the program, and that's simply drafting the ordinances, the forms, the applications, things like that. It's a very minimal cost, but anything after that comes out of the escrows.
So this is why we like Trustee Kiana Belcher, right? Because she's going to ask the right questions, the pertinent questions, and she's not going to hold back. And she was always speaking up when Tiffany Henyard would just be running her mouth, gaslighting and just trying to get things passed without the right documentation and without enough information. She would be the main one to stand her ground and speak up against Tiffany Henyard. The question I feel is very valid, but I was kind of confused about the lady's answer. She's saying that she's going to get paid a fee for drafting up the forms, applications, and paperwork, but then she also gets paid from the escrow payment too. So I don't know who's paying her the fee first, how much that fee is, and at this point we don't even know how much the escrow is going to be because that hasn't been discussed yet either. So let's go ahead and continue.
And will the board be able to see these so we kind of anybody that lives here has lived here for a while. We kind of know what properties are
Sure.
abandoned, which have been deteriorating for years or whatever. But would it just be like a list of properties that we would see price, or, and I'll just use an example of somebody in the audience, Mr. Lee.
I couldn't believe I looked at this agenda and saw the word secret squirrel on a freaking on a professional agenda for a village.
And then the very next, I believe 2 days later, they had a special meeting.
Secret squirrel meeting.
If you look on that first page, she has secret squirrel meeting on there. You know what made that necessary? 11 council meetings.
I'll just use an example of somebody in the audience, Mr. Lee, say, hey, this property 3 doors down from me has been vacant for 9-10 years, and I want to know if it qualifies or something like that. That is
exactly how it would be. But just so that you know, and this is a way to kind of make sure that these properties, once we convey them to the applicants, are able to get rehabbed. At the beginning of the application process, the applicant will have to show proof of funds, usually to fix 50 to 60,000, knowing that once we transfer the property to them, that they do have the financial stability to be able to make the repairs and get it back on the tax rolls. And then they will also have to show the proof of funds at the time of transfer as well. So to answer your question, any resident, I think, did you say Mr. Lee? Mm-hmm. Mr. Lee is more than welcome to, oh, is that Mr. Lee there?
You got it, Mr. Lee, you got it.
Yeah, is more than welcome to apply. And you know what, as long as he has the financial backing to do it and he's got the gumption to do it, why not? You know, it's an amazing program to where residents not only can get properties back on the tax rolls next door to them that their extended family can live in, or it's a rental property where they live right next door, so they're keeping an eye on it 24/7, or they're selling it and they're not only bettering the community, they're making a profit.
Now, obviously, it's a good requirement to make sure that people actually have the funds to rehabilitate these houses before they get into this whole application process in trying to acquire the houses. Now, let's go ahead and switch over to Tiffany Henyard's proposal, and her proposal was called BlockbyBlock. Let's listen to her delivery of it and kind of see why the board was never really on board with it, okay?
Next is approval of BlockbyBlock program. Next on the agenda is approval of BlockbyBlock program. As relates to BlockbyBlock program, I put it on here several times, several years to be exact, and you guys still keep kicking that can down the road, and you don't want to do anything with the vacant property here in the village of Dolton. I have put this on the agenda several times. It relates to putting the vacant property back on the tax roll. This would include getting property for $1 or $5,000 to community. I've asked you guys to create something, change it, implement what you want on it. All I wanted to do is get it done, where I missed several opportunities of putting the vacant properties on the tax roll, and to this day it's been over a year and nothing has happened with the vacant property in Dolton. Everybody that know me know that as a trustee I initiated BlockbyBlock. When I started it, I advocated from the residents to see their opinion, and you guys actually helped me write the outline for BlockbyBlock. But my goal is to make sure that you had the opportunity first, and I wanted to make sure that I built a program that was for residents, meaning home ownership. So that entails houses for $1 and houses for $5,000. The dollar houses is for the investors, and I get this question all the time. Why is the investor houses $1 and why is the $5,000 for the residents? So let me explain. The dollar houses are the homes that's messed up. Have a family of raccoons living in it, holes in the roof, carpet missing out of it, where you have to dump literally $50,000 to $100,000 into that property. That's why it's geared towards investors. And as it relates to $5,000, the $5,000 one is for residents. People that I feel work day to day, people that I know once you get income tax money, you can afford to fix up the property. And it's cosmetic, meaning flooring, paint, things of that nature that I know you can fix up. Because right now, currently, we do not have any homes for sale in the village of Dolton that the village owns. The village do not own any of the vacant property. They are all abandoned, and we are currently writing tickets as relates to grass cutting or just being abandoned and need work. So right now, I'm asking the board to initiate this program so we can at least start going after the vacant property in the village of Dolton. Is there a motion to approve BlockbyBlock? I've tried to put this on the agenda several times for board approval, and I would like the board to support me in creating block by block and starting somewhere. Because right now, we still have a list of vacant properties throughout the village of Dolton, and nothing has transpired as it relates to putting them back on the tax roll. So, Board of Trustees, I'm asking for your support once again to initiate this program, and let's start somewhere.
So, you know, she's saying she wants to give Dolton residents the first stab at it. She wants to give them, you know, the houses for $5,000 and then the $1 for investors, because investors have more money to put into the most dilapidated houses. That's her, you know, that's her little spiel. And she will repeat this over and over throughout the board meetings to try to get the trustees on board. Now, some people might look at this and be like, oh, the trustees, they just hating, you know, they just don't want her to succeed. It just because it's her idea, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is, throughout the whole process, there was a lot of missing information that the trustees would always ask from the mayor, and they would never get it. And for an example, let's listen to Trustee Kiana Belcher talk about this matter to the mayor during one of the board meetings. And like I said, she never held back, so she's definitely gonna give her a piece of her mind.
May I be recognized?
Go ahead, Trustee Belcher.
You keep saying we knocked on doors. We did knock on doors. We knocked on doors. We did say the block by block. The basis of the block by block is a good program. Nobody has never discredited the program. The question was, when we start looking at who's going to pay the legal fees, who's going to put insurance on this property, how long will they hold the deeds? It was a lot of questions that's not being answered. And you steady saying, we need to do it, we need to do it. It's your program. So at the end of the day, if you saying you want to create something, sit down and create it and then let us evaluate it. But it's way more than this one sheet of paper that you keep giving us saying, I put it together. If y'all want to add something, I put it together, making it seem like that we're the ones that's doing something wrong. Nobody has never discredited the program. Yes, I knocked on the door and I said it is a wonderful program. We want to get properties back on there. But at the end of the day, the way you recklessly spending money, we have a lot of concerns about things that's being passed and things that, so everything that's coming across the board has to be scrutinized right now. Every time we go somewhere, you could be in the street. What's up with them dollar houses? What's up with them fat? It's like you done promised everybody their mama and their grandmama a house, and we ain't even got that many houses.
Like I said, you guys, Kiana does not play when she needs to speak her mind and tell somebody about something. All right. But let's go ahead, because some other trustees also had some things to say to the mayor about the lack of transparency when it came to this block by block program. Let's listen to Trustee Brittany Norwood, because she is a trustee who also has experience with real estate.
And then in regards to the program, all they're stating is it doesn't have enough information. So when you say approve it and we'll add, and I'll add to it later, that's the concern. It's already a lack of transparency on the board. So with the lack of transparency, we can't trust that the homes are going to be given away as you state in your program. And all we're saying is, hey, let's have something concrete so that we know exactly what we're doing, exactly who's receiving the homes, who's liable for the homes. It's easy to just say, okay, we're going to give away a house for $1. If anyone in the audience do want that, but as a realtor, we know that there's more to real estate than that. Who's reliable for the home? Who's receiving the liability? The village. So if something happens while we have these homes in our possession, we're liable. And we're not saying, hey, we don't want the program, but what we're saying is, give us more information. As a realtor, it wouldn't make sense for me to approve something that I know don't make sense. I sell homes all the time. What type of lottery? How many people who will be eligible to enter the lottery? Who's overseeing the lottery? How do the board of trustees ensure that the homes aren't just going anywhere? Because right now we can't even receive proper paperwork.
So as we can see, there were plenty of concerns and unanswered questions about Tiffany Henyard's block by block initiative. And even as a trustee, Jason House also had some concerns about this lottery system that was going to be put into play along with her block by block program. Let's listen to his concerns.
Some time ago, I think block by block, as the mayor mentioned in the outline form, is a great concept. I thought it was when it first came up, and I believe it still is today. My challenges and why I have not voted on it before remain the same today as they did before, and I would like to see this program come to its fruition. For the lottery program, how do we make sure that we have a fair system? What does that lottery program look like? So that way when the residents come in, we know they're pulling out of a hat. They're gonna do that. All of those things can be discussed. How do we make sure that we get that residents do not manipulate, not saying residents, individuals who receive the houses do not manipulate the system to make sure that they get it and then buy and flip it when it's intended for homeowners. In my mind, if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist, and there's a lot of details about this program that we discuss that are not on paper.
So it comes down to the same thing, and was often the same theme with Tiffany Henyard. And that's her not providing enough documentation to the trustees in order for them to make informed decisions. And speaking of making informed decisions as trustees, Tiffany Henyard was one of the biggest hypocrites that we have seen throughout this whole Dolton drama fiasco. Because as a trustee, she often said she stood for things that went totally out the window as soon as she became mayor. For instance, this is a clip of her berating the board, berating, whoever, because she didn't receive enough information about a program, coincidentally, that was supposed to help get rid of the abandoned houses in Dolton. Let's see how she reacted as a trustee when she didn't get that information.
Okay. Go ahead, Trustee Henyard.
Thank you. This message is to the residents. For the record, Mary Kay, everything I'm gonna say tonight, I supported this from jump. I voted for this investment dollar because I wanted to give houses back to the residents. But as we went forward, there were some things that needed to be tweaked. And y'all know me, I'm gonna say exactly how it is. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, I'm gonna tell you what it is, and I'm gonna ask y'all opinion. Y'all told us at my committee meeting that you no longer wanted it, meaning we need to pause and basically fix the tweaks. That's why I voted to take it off the table, fix the tweaks, and then bring it back forward. I'm not saying I'm against it. They'll get my vote if they fix the tweaks. They don't want to. I want the board to fix the tweaks before we move forward so we can have exactly what the residents want. Currently now we don't have that. We have what the board wants but not what the people wants, and I have a problem with that. So that's why I am against voting for this tonight. That's why they're gonna get a no from Trustee Henyard. So going forward, please ask these board members up here, why did they vote for this? Where's the invoices for the 30K? I care about stuff like that. When I vote on anything, I make sure I got documentation on it. Currently, I do not. It's hearsay. We're saying we paying $30,000 for 6 houses at $5,000 a pop. Okay, where the paperwork at? When we vote on any attorney bills or any bills up here, we get an invoice, it's itemized, it tells us exactly what we're purchasing. Currently, we do not have that in front of us, and I wouldn't even spend my own money without having something like that, let alone you guys' money.
Who's overseeing the lottery? How do the board of trustees ensure that the homes aren't just going anywhere? Because right now we can't even receive proper paperwork as we should. So it's a concern, and all we're saying is stop making everything as an attack, Mayor. We're a team, and as a team we have to figure out things and ways to benefit the residents.
And I wouldn't even spend my own money without having something like that, let alone you guys' money. So for the record, Mary Kay, I'm totally against paying this $30,000 out. I think it should go to my committee, which I said several times, and vet it through. Then bring it back up. Then he can get approval. It's not we're against it because we're saying no. We just need to vet it through. Thank you. End of my statement.
At the current moment, the land bank is what we've decided to go with because we can manage them. The neighboring villages use them, they don't have a problem. In the meantime, before we go and approve something that doesn't have enough information, because we are legally responsible. Once we vote on this program, anything that happens, the first thing they'll say is, okay, the trustees voted for it. So we should make sure that there's a concrete plan in place. That's just being responsible.
So as we can see, there was always that difference between Mayor Tiffany Henyard and Trustee Tiffany Henyard, and the blatant hypocrisy between the two is what really, got on people's nerves. All right, there's really no other way to say it. And not to mention the total disrespect in the way she talked to people that she was supposed to be working alongside with, such as the trustees. So what do you get in return when you give disrespect? You get disrespected as well. So yes, there were times where the trustees would bite back at her and, try to put her in her place, because she always came with this attitude, with this aura like, oh, I'm the mayor now, I'm the queen of everything. All right. She even put on her Facebook that she is the most powerful woman in the Chicagoland area, whatever she put. So that's like the mindset she was in when she became mayor. She just really felt untouchable. And I think that she will go down in history definitely as an example of how not to act if you do find yourself in a position of power that was never held by a certain demographic of people that you can be seen as representing. Okay. but you can't control how people act once they get into the position, right? You can look out for the red flags though. It's just like hiring somebody for a job. Yes, they might interview well, all right? They might have a good background as far as job history. Heck, they might even know some people within the company that might recommend them and say that they're a good worker, but you don't really know how that person is going to perform, and it really won't show through until they're actually on the job. And then you can look up 2 weeks later and find out this person is nothing like they described themselves or someone else did. Okay, you just never know. But like I said before, always look out for those red flags. And dealing with Tiffany Henyard, there were definitely red flags even when she was a trustee. But you guys, let me know what you think about this company that the attorney is trying to get the board on board with. It is an active, ongoing program in other municipalities. So that brings me to the question, does Dolton just need to go ahead and do something rather than nothing? Because they've been dealing with these abandoned houses for so long, and it's just like to the point like, okay, when are you going to do something? Let me know what you guys think. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave it a like. And if you're new here, subscribe.